Now, Mazdak Hashemi has been working at Twitter for the last 5 years, runs a diverse group of really talented engineers that cover a very broad spectrum of technologies. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Mazdak up on stage with me, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you decided to join us today. Thank you very much.
That was great. What do you want to say?
So Mazdak, first I'm sure that I did no justice to your role at the company. So could you just spend a couple of minutes just describing to folks here, what is it that you do?
I actually don't know. But, so actually, first of all, thanks Rami for having me, and thanks actually for the Juniper family. I think, to be honest, one of the reasons actually I decided to come here today was Juniper has been amazing to the journey that we had at Twitter from an scalability and a network. So I do want to give these guys a shout out. As you know, we have a lot of other, there are other obviously, how do you say, vendors out there, or partners, I should say. I would want to call Juniper as a partner for Twitter. So I just want to say that. As far as what I do for Twitter is I'm part of the infrastructure engineering organization. The team that we actually have put together in the last 5 to 8 years. We run the infrastructure and the platform for Twitter engineering. So the way to look at us is anything from a data center, network, hardware, storage, compute, data infrastructure, and so forth is actually part of my organization. And our job is to really provide scalability, reliability, flexibility, agility to our internal customers, which is our product engineering teams and revenue teams, and obviously external customers like folks like yourself and our president. Yeah, I had to say that too.
I knew that was coming.
Yes, so sorry.
To say that there are tons of users and traffic that you have to solve for, just the sheer challenge of keeping a platform like Twitter up has got to be pretty staggering. How do you deal with those challenges on a day-to-day?
Yeah.
Do you sleep?
I actually don't sleep much, and I think it's sort of, it's like sort of being part of this industry or trying to be part of the infrastructure or sort of a back-end engineer over the years. When you're on call and you get a lot of exciting calls, your sleep pattern changes, and obviously when you have kids, life changes forever as well. Mm-hmm. So I think actually Twitter has gone into a very interesting evolution over the years. So I think if some of you guys that have used us in early 2009 and 2010, right? If you sort of go back to, I wasn't at that point in the company, but like the World Cup of 2010 or the Arab Springs and so forth, the platform grew really quickly, right? So, and then one of the things that we had to learn while we were at the job, I think, is just that sort of how can you actually scale the platform that's growing very significantly. And one of the things that over the years we have learned is you have to do engineering. I think without engineering, nothing is really possible. Like the challenges that we had to overcome was in some of the cases we had to re-architect. So we moved from a monolithical architecture to a service-oriented architecture. Again, I think in a few years from now, things probably will change again. We actually had to change the network architecture to be able to actually scale horizontally. So we've done a number of things to be able to actually scale Twitter to where it is today. But I think one of the things I just want to sort of add here is we're always trying to test our infrastructure. We're always trying to fail our infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we've done over the last few years is how can we automate and do failure testing, stress testing, red line testing, any type of a testing that you can do at the infrastructure at this scale to be able to predict, because every day for us could be a Black Friday. Yeah. So we don't have the luxury of other folks that, oh look, this is the day, so we're going to plan for it. There are certain days that we plan for, but a bunch of things can happen across the board, and we just have to be ready for the spikes.
So, I talked a little bit this morning about change in our industry, change happening all around us. It sounds like your network is constantly evolving from, to a service-oriented architecture, as you just mentioned. Change is the name of the game.
Yeah, change is the name of the game for sure.
And things are moving fast, right? Is that sort of how I should think about what's happening inside of Twitter and in the engineering team?
I think, as you did a great job, your new CTO, that sort of all the things that we're saying is at the end of the day, I have to go back and look at all those dashboards, right?
Yeah.
So the presentations are amazing. I'll say good things over here. But yeah, things are moving fast. Change is the name of the game, but I think at Twitter we're very dynamic. And the other thing I should add is you have to hire really good people. You have to hire people that are actually better than you. Yeah. And if you hire people that are actually better than you, it will make your life a lot easier. So I think one of the things we've done, I would say, a phenomenal job at Twitter is we've hired people we have hired a lot of engineers, very smart engineers, and in many cases they're better than people like myself in the room.
Well, so the one thing I know about you is moving fast is not a foreign concept. And in fact, I think we might have dug up a video of you moving really fast up at what, like 10,000 feet or something like that. Do we have that video? Can we actually roll it? So I didn't quite realize. Pretty impressive. Yeah, that deserves a round of applause.
All right.
I didn't realize that there was such a amazing amount of hazard in the job at Twitter. So can you explain what's going on here?
I think, yeah, that's actually very interesting. So one of the things, that was actually impressive a little bit, right? No, not me, the airplane. You saw the orange line and the red line and stuff. It's called Firecat if you want to look it up. But anyway, so...
Were you flying or was somebody else flying?
No, it's two pilots.
Okay.
Yeah. It's two pilots. It's actually, we can talk about it more, but it's a Russian retired military jet plane.
Okay.
So it's a cool...
Was it fun? Was it scary?
You get used to it, but it's scary for sure. Yeah.
Was it like on-the-job training? Is this how they train people at Twitter to move fast?
I'll defer. You can tweet that and we're small.
Like if I wanted a job there tomorrow, do I have to do that?
I mean, you have to do something.
Okay.
It's just that's just maybe one of the requirements.
Okay.
Let's see. So I think, to be honest, one of the things that I've always, and actually I tell the organization as well, is you have to be able to take risks and you have to be able to adjust when it's needed. So I think if you're too conservative, then you run an organization that they cannot innovate, right? So and you actually will paralyze the engineers and the organization and everything else. So one of the things that we're trying to do at Twitter is we're trying to enable the engineers to actually make decisions and go fast.
Yeah.
And one of the things we actually, I'll tell the engineers is we do cause. We have had incidents that you guys have seen publicly, right? So it could have been either due to a network incident or to a software issue or to a scalability issue and so forth. But one of the things that we're not shy about is we sort of learn from our mistakes and we actually continue to improve. So I think for us is just being able to take risks and be bold is just part of our DNA.
I love those cultural principles.
So you don't necessarily have to go, fly crazy planes or go jump somewhere or do a bungee jump, but
but it certainly helps.
But it certainly helps.
I get it. So how about so your applications have evolved. I also talked a little bit up this morning around how data centers are necessarily getting more distributed in nature. Yeah. Is this an architectural paradigm that's also affecting you, and how have you dealt with that transition?
Yeah, very good. So actually I'll talk about this one on two different aspects of it. So we, from just a pure data center standpoint, it's just we hire the right folks to do the right job. So that's that. But I'm going to talk about it from a network standpoint and application standpoint. I think from a network standpoint, what we've done in our data center is we had to re-architect the network in the last 2 to 3 years. So, and again, I don't know, and we had to really be very careful how we've done it, is because we don't have multiple data centers, right? So we don't have 10 data centers that we could just say, hey, look, let's just shut down this one data center for the next 3 months and upgrade the hardware, migrate, and we sort of have moved to sort of a very wide closed architecture from a network architecture standpoint. So one of the things that we had to do was to be able to upgrade the tires of the car while we're driving 100 miles per hour. Sure. And making sure that just we balance the work and everything else. But one of the things that we did was to really set ourselves up to not for the next year or 2 years, but set ourselves up for whatever happens for the next 3 to 5 years. Sure. As we add more data centers, we're going to sort of expand and apply the same topology. Got it. And we've have really one of the things we also have done is the terminology of multi-cloud has come, right? We're also we have expanded ourselves to, you have to be able to the infrastructure is changing. So in some cases, you might run some part of your infrastructure in public cloud. You might run infrastructure in your own data centers and so forth. Obviously, we run the majority of the TOI in our own data centers. So that's from a network standpoint. From an application standpoint, it's a little bit different for us. Because at the end of the day, we have a social graph. And for our social graph, how do we apply that in our data center? We actually do carry the social graph in different regions and different zones that we have. But one of the things that we've done very well, I would say, and we can improve is our sort of how we divert our front-end traffic.
Yeah.
And when it's needed. So that's also has been a sort of a software engineering work that we've done, and that how we divert traffic and so forth. So that's been just another thing that we've done from a data center standpoint.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how you're essentially doing these upgrades while you're flying at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But the one thing about Twitter that I'm sure many people here also recognize is that traffic can be pretty darn bursty. I mean, you can have an event like the Super Bowl, a selfie at an Oscar, something that will result in a huge spike of traffic. How can you deal with that kind of issue at the company?
Very good. So we actually had to learn how to deal with it. So
Okay.
It's one of those things is we, for many times we
Learned by necessity.
learn by necessity and learn by making sure we're staying up for Japanese New Year. So just making sure.
Is that the burstiest thing that can happen?
Well, that's one of those days that like the Black Friday that like Black Friday, Super Bowl, Oscars. Well, actually, the Oscar, I have a very funny stories. I never expected that day. I was actually I wasn't even worried about it. Yeah, but it was very exciting. So thanks to Ellen, we'll definitely pay attention to that one. But one thing that actually we do is from our network, so we can talk about this in sort of the different layers, right? So one of the things we've done is for our backbone. I think one of the work that we've done in our backbone is how can we have different paths to bring the traffic to our data centers? Mm-hmm. Because again, when you look at it, in some cases the traffic is global, in some cases it's localized. So if it's localized in the specific regions, you obviously, you might have, you're just running hot in specific regions. So you have to diversify the traffic and in certain ways. So the way we've done it is we've actually have built I would say auto traffic shifting as part of our application. In some of the cases, based on where the clients are, they might actually go to certain regions, and obviously anybody that has certain skills, they do.
So is that like New Year's in Japan?
New Year's in Japan, right?
And is that in fact the burstiest time period for you?
So that's not the burstiest time period per se, but that's the burstiest that we expect to sort of see it come. So it's just, they're very synchronized the way they do it. So you expect that, obviously the majority of the traffic will come to the West Coast region of us. So we have to be careful of how we send the traffic from Japan all the way to our data centers elsewhere and so forth.
Sure. I can imagine this being a true challenge. The other thing I'm sure that's top of mind for you, considering how important this social platform is for communication for obviously big-time politicians, as well as celebrities, et cetera. We all know.
All right, cool.
Security.
Right.
Security is got to be super important. And how do you think about securing the infrastructure and making sure that it's there even in the face of adversity from bad guys that are trying to cause reputational harm?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I think one of the things with security is if you ever say that actually I know exactly I'm actually the best company and I'm the best at this, I think we're sort of fooling ourselves. I think security is something that evolves because there are always other people out there that might be better, and there are other people that their job is to actually find holes and penetrate your network, right, or your infrastructure. But one of the things that, again, I've encouraged organizations, and I think we have the people that are sort of thinking about this like a thoughtful leaders are continuously try to break our own infrastructure, continuously try to look at areas that, what are the areas that we have to improve, right? So obviously you can have a closed network, you can close everything up and open a connection to external world in a certain way. You can have policies, but policies without engineering and implementations, they're just something that you can write and you can frame it and put it in your CEO's office. No offense also. But one of the things that I would say that we've done is we actually, and again, this is something that we have learned over the years, right? That we look at our layer 4 traffic very carefully. We look at our layer 7 very carefully. And one of the other things that we had to improve is visibility. Because at the end of the day, when we have, we have a larger scale traffic, it's really hard to determine, well, am I getting attacked? Is somebody penetrating something, or this is actually the real traffic that's coming in? So I think visibility to your traffic is very important, and one of the things that we've done is, again, by this fancy words of machine learning these days that goes around, even though if you're a computer scientist, it was written 50 years ago. But now because of the computing, we can actually utilize it. Mm-hmm. But we definitely have improved on how we actually look inside our network and look at our application to be able to identify this. And I'm not saying that we actually there are not issues that we would not notice afterwards, because I would be lying if I say this, but I can say that continuously we're improving, and the way we're improving is just by having better visibility, detection, and automated remediation steps.
Yeah, it speaks exactly to the point that Bikash was just making about running blind and how bad that is for business. So visibility is obviously critical. Okay, and you mentioned Mazdak automation and the role that automation plays. I suspect, like most cloud providers, you're running pretty lean in terms of the team that you have to run what is a global mission critical network, and automation plays a pretty important role. Can you just sort of expand on that a bit?
Sure. I think, to be honest, definitely one of the big things we've done in the last 2 to 3 years is, I would say even actually the last 18 to 24 months is really improving the automation of our network. So if you look at it as the number of servers, as you might add more servers, you add more racks. As you add more data centers, you add a bunch of more racks and so forth, right? Then you have TORs, and then you have cores, and you have fabrics, and you have edge. So the number of devices that you have in your network it increases. And we continuously roll out, again, with X number of racks weekly, right? Yes. So let's just talk about X. And in that case if we are not able to automate either our deployment, or we're not able to actually have visibility to our network, we're just going to be running blind, right? If you look at us, we have over, I think, actually let's forget about, there was 3,000 was the number, but I'm just going to not mention what the number is. But we have multiple POPs across the globe. So we have POP across all the continents that we have. And one of the things that we have been able to do is to be able to actually identify what fails, and we actually have written code, and some of this work will come out, and we publish this, to remediate the network when there's an issue without actually operating knowing this. Because there is no way for us that we can go say, well, there is an issue in this link, and this link will have this impact, because in some cases you have cache, or you have your Mesos instances in our case, or a storage or other things in that link. So we have really improved the way we remediate our network issues by moving the work from the operators or engineers to the hand of software.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, we've also have moved, in some cases we used to actually, it will take us 3 to 4 hours, or even maybe 15 hours to bring a new TOR or new core up. So that has gone to a matter of few minutes.
Wow.
And the only way that we're doing this, again, there's a physical aspect of the human actually have to go connecting a rack when you actually bring the rack up. But in many of those cases, it's just the automation has really improved, that we're able to actually we're still run, our network team is the same size, and in some cases actually is smaller than what it used to be 5 years ago.
Wow. So, when you look out and people talk about artificial intelligence, I talked about artificial intelligence today. Is this myth, or is it actually something that you believe can add value to an automated, self-driving network?
Yeah, I love that, the term of self-driving network. I think self-driving network, to me, again, I will actually will pay for a self-driving network before I pay for a self-driving car, just to be honest. But definitely, no, it is there. Again, the processing power that we have these days, the cloud that's enabled us to be able to utilize the data that we have and be able to actually make decisions based on the data.
Yeah.
So, and I definitely believe that if you're a network engineer, software engineering and engineering should become part of your discipline in the next few years. Yeah. So I think, one of the things is, and then that will just evolve. Yeah. So I think even if you look at the network engineering discipline, it has changed, because software is just going to do more for us, and not only in networking, but in all part of our life.
Yeah.
So I think I would say self-driving and self-healing network is something that we're there, and it's happening.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Okay, let's wrap up, but maybe one last question, if it's okay. Sure. Not everybody here is running a network that has 330 million active users. But I suspect that you have some advice for folks here that can add value to their networks, their challenges, et cetera. What would you say?
I'm glad you added the network, because I was going to say, like, is the question, do you want me to talk about like their personal life or professional life advice? So,
hey, whatever.
So that's just,
open
that's
to both.
Good to know. Yeah. So again, I think actually my advice there is to, again, fail fast and then be bold and innovate. I think it's one of those things is if we're just not, and then do engineering. I think like without engineering, we're just going to be behind. And I don't think spending money is always the right solution. So I think between engineering and spending money and deciding on what the right technology for you is where you're actually going to be successful if you're in this business.
Wise words. Mazdak, I can't tell you how happy I am that you joined us today. I also just want to say that you're the kind of customer and partner that makes Juniper a better technology company all up. So I truly appreciate the partnership.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you.